There exists a profound weariness that transcends physical fatigue, a bone-deep exhaustion that 8 hours of sleep cannot touch. You close your eyes, drift into darkness, and wake to find that invisible weight still pressing against your chest. This isn't the tiredness your body feels after a long day. This is something that settles in the depths of your being, like carrying luggage packed with burdens you never chose, but somehow cannot abandon. When concerned friends ask what troubles you, words fail. There's no dramatic story to tell, no single catastrophic event to point toward. Instead, it's the accumulation of countless small erosions, 1,000 paper cuts to the soul that have slowly bled you dry. Each disappointment, each moment of pretending to be fine when you weren't, each time you swallowed your authentic feelings to keep the peace, they've all collected like sediment in your spirit. This is the reality for those who find themselves weary of existence itself. It's crucial to understand that this weariness doesn't equate to a desire for disappearance. Rather, it represents a desperate longing for silence, the cessation of life's relentless noise. The cacophony of societal expectations pounds against tired minds. The deafening roar of constant comparison drowns out inner wisdom. The exhausting performance of appearing okay when everything feels fractured becomes a daily theatrical production nobody auditioned for. Mental health professionals recognize this phenomenon as emotional exhaustion, a critical juncture where the psyche ceases its struggle, not from weakness but from complete depletion. This occurs when emotional expenditure consistently exceeds emotional replenishment, creating a deficit that compounds over time. It's the psychological equivalent of running a marathon while forgetting to hydrate. Eventually, the system simply cannot sustain itself. What makes this particularly insidious is its invisible nature. From external observation, these individuals often appear remarkably functional. They attend meetings, fulfill responsibilities, and maintain social pleasantries. Yet internally, everything feels muffled, as if experiencing life through thick glass. Joy becomes a foreign language they once spoke fluently, but can no longer recall how to pronounce. The neuroscience behind this phenomenon reveals its biological foundations. Chronic stress fundamentally rewires neural pathways, shifting the brain into perpetual survival mode. This neurological transformation filters all experiences through the lens of exhaustion. Reward systems that once sparked motivation begin to malfunction. Dopamine responses, those chemical messengers of pleasure and drive, weaken significantly. The internal spark that makes existence feel meaningful gradually dims, like a light bulb slowly losing its power. When someone confesses to being just tired, it's rarely about laziness or lack of ambition. It's the mind's way of communicating a fundamental truth. I have been carrying too much for far too long. This intersection of psychology and humanity reveals that behind every weary soul lies not a story of failure, but of tremendous effort. These are often the individuals who have tried hardest to hold everything together, the peacemakers, the helpers, the ones who consistently show up even when their own reserves are completely empty. They have mastered the art of surviving chaos, but never learned the skill of resting in peace. This distinction is crucial. Survival requires constant vigilance, continuous adaptation, and relentless forward motion. Peace, however, demands stillness, acceptance, and the courage to simply be without doing. Modern society compounds this problem by rewarding productivity over peace. We celebrate the person who works overtime but rarely acknowledge the wisdom of taking a quiet day for reflection. We praise those who push through but seldom honor those who choose to slow down. This cultural bias teaches people to equate their worth with their output, creating a dangerous equation where rest feels like failure. This guilt becomes part of what traps people in their exhaustion. The internal narrative whispers cruel lies. You don't deserve rest until you've earned it. But this creates an impossible paradox. If you wait until you've earned rest, you'll never receive it. In our modern world, there's always another task, another goal, another standard to meet. The finish line keeps moving, and so we keep running, often forgetting why we started the race in the first place. The painful truth is that being tired of existing doesn't indicate weakness. It often signals that someone has been strong for far too long. They've carried unprocessed emotions, shouldered responsibilities they never requested, and attempted to meet expectations that no human could possibly fulfill. After years of pretending this weight doesn't matter, their spirit finally whispers, "I cannot continue this way." Psychologists have identified a specific condition called anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure. Unlike depression's heavy sadness, anhedonia presents as profound emptiness. Imagine living in a world drained of color, where even positive experiences feel neutral. This occurs when the brain activates self-preservation mode, stopping its reach for joy because it has learned that joy is unreliable. It becomes safer to expect nothing than to face disappointment repeatedly. People experiencing this often begin withdrawing, not from hatred of others, but because social energy becomes prohibitively expensive. Even casual conversation feels like attempting to lift mountains. They may cancel plans, remain silent in group settings, or increase their time alone. Their nervous system simply cannot handle additional emotional demands. This isn't antisocial behavior, it's self-protection. When the world becomes overwhelming, isolation provides shelter from the storm. This type of exhaustion accumulates over time, building from years of emotional suppression. Every "I'm fine" spoken through tears, every forced smile hiding pain, every moment of silence to avoid conflict. These instances compound until authentic energy becomes impossible to sustain. Small signs begin appearing. Music loses its emotional impact, laughter feels performed, time seems to crawl, and life stops feeling alive. Another layer emerges: meaning fatigue. When people lose connection to their life's purpose, everything becomes burdensome. They don't hate their existence, but they cannot find sufficient reason to continue repeating it. Wake up, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. Days blur together until they begin asking the fundamental question: what's the point? Yet this question, despite its bleakness, often marks the beginning of transformation. When the soul asks about purpose, it's really saying, I need a reason to stay. This moment of apparent despair can become where awakening begins, because deep tiredness serves as a signal, a message from the subconscious, indicating that something in life no longer aligns with authentic identity. This realization, though painful, can be liberating. It suggests there's something to be reclaimed: purpose, authenticity, or simply peace. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived concentration camps, discovered that humans can endure almost any suffering if they have a meaningful why. People who rediscover their purpose often find energy returning gradually. The exhaustion transforms from despair to direction, the difference between "I'm exhausted because nothing matters" and "I'm exhausted because I'm growing." Perhaps the goal isn't to eliminate tiredness, but to listen to its message. Treating exhaustion as a messenger rather than a curse allows us to hear what it's communicating. You've outgrown something. Maybe it's a draining job, an ill-fitting lifestyle, or a version of yourself that survived but no longer thrives. If you're feeling that quiet ache suggesting there has to be more than this, you're not broken, you're awakening. People who've experienced emotional exhaustion often develop extraordinary compassion. They understand pain without words, sense others' struggles behind facades, and learn to speak softly, love deeply, and value honesty above all else. Because they've learned that pretending doesn't heal. This creates a paradox: being tired of existing humbles you, strips away illusions, and forces confrontation with reality. You realize life isn't about constant achievement or endless motion. It's about alignment, about finding quiet spaces where you can breathe without pretending. If these words resonate with your experience, that invisible fatigue, that quiet ache, remember you are not alone or strange for feeling this way. You're human in a world that often forgets how to rest. You don't need to fix everything immediately, or force joy or fake energy. You simply need to stop running from your tiredness and start hearing its message. Being tired of existing isn't necessarily an ending. It can be the beginning of living differently. The moment you admit this exhaustion, something shifts. For the first time, you're being completely honest with yourself. And that honesty, though heavy, marks the beginning of healing. Until you name your fatigue, you'll keep trying to fix it with new goals, habits, or distractions, anything that feels like movement. But what you're truly craving isn't more motion, it's meaning, and meaning doesn't always emerge from grand achievements or life-changing breakthroughs. Sometimes it's discovered in the smallest, quietest moments, watching rain against windows, hearing a song that understands you, sitting in silence without needing to perform. Rest isn't laziness, it's repair. When you begin resting emotionally, not just physically, you notice how much of your life has been driven by survival, rather than creating peace. Every decision, plan, and reaction has focused on avoiding pain, rather than cultivating meaning. This is understandable. The human brain prioritizes safety over happiness. That's why even when everything appears fine externally, you can feel hollow internally. Safety without meaning eventually feels like imprisonment. The truth most people avoid saying when you're tired of existing, it's not because you want to give up, it's because you want something deeper to live for. You want a reason that makes waking up feel worthwhile again. Not from obligation, but from genuine purpose. That reason doesn't need to be enormous. It just needs to be real. Existential fatigue occurs when the soul grows weary from living without clear purpose. You can have comfort, stability, even success, but if it's not aligned with your authentic self, it will drain you. People experiencing this emptiness often question everything: career, values, relationships. Not because they're lost, but because their soul is tired of pretending. It's declaring this version of life no longer fits. Energy doesn't just come from sleep or nutrition. It comes from alignment. When actions reflect values, you feel light. When they don't, even simple tasks feel impossible. This explains why you can work 12 hours on something you love and feel energized, but 2 hours on something you hate leaves you destroyed. The solution isn't dramatic life overhaul, but small acts of honesty. Notice what drains you and what nourishes you. Maybe it's certain people, your routine, or the version of yourself always trying to appear strong. Once you identify these patterns, you can begin releasing them. Not dramatically, but gently. Healing isn't performance, it's quiet returning. You realize the world isn't demanding perfection. You've been demanding that from yourself. You've built impossible standards from fear that resting means falling behind. But behind what? Behind whom? Nobody truly knows what they're doing. Everyone is just trying to find small reasons to keep moving forward. When you stop comparing your timeline to others, you see that peace was never behind achievement. It was always behind acceptance. Something powerful happens when you accept exhaustion without shame. Instead of pushing harder, you listen deeper. Instead of asking what's wrong with me, you ask, what is my mind trying to tell me? This question becomes the bridge back to life. You rediscover wonder, not the loud cinematic kind, but subtle beauty in small things. These tiny anchors remind you that life doesn't need to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It just needs to be felt. Feeling is something we unlearn as we grow older. We're taught to analyze and optimize, but rarely to simply feel, to sit with sadness without fixing it, to hold joy without fearing its disappearance. People tired of existing often lose touch with raw emotional connection to life, becoming numb not from lack of caring, but because caring has hurt too much. The way back isn't through more control, but through surrender, allowing yourself to be human again, to cry without justification, rest without guilt, and admit you don't have all the answers. Sometimes the most courageous act isn't pushing forward, but stopping, breathing, and starting again from truth. Research in positive psychology shows that people who regularly engage in awe moments, small, intentional experiences of wonder, report higher life satisfaction and lower burnout rates. Even when feeling empty, seeking awe can reawaken something inside. It might be watching the night sky, listening to moving music, or writing to your younger self. Awe reconnects you with existence itself, reminding you that you're still here, and that being here still matters. Maybe that's the quiet miracle of being tired of existing. It strips life down to essentials, removing noise, performance, and illusion. It asks you to rebuild not a perfect life, but a true one, based on what genuinely nourishes you. If you're in that place where simple things feel hard, where days blur together, remember, you're not behind or broken, you're being called to reconnect. Your tiredness isn't a flaw, it's a compass pointing back towards something real, perhaps slowness, honesty, or meaning. When that reconnection begins, even minimally, the world shifts. Colors feel warmer, music feels closer, laughter returns. Not because everything's fixed, but because you've made peace with imperfections. That peace, that quiet acceptance, is where real life begins again. There will always be moments when weight returns, days when you question direction, but now you'll recognize it not as an ending, but as a signal. A reminder that you're someone who feels, thinks, and lives deeply. That's something to celebrate. Being tired of existing doesn't mean you failed at life. Maybe it means you finally paused long enough to realize that life deserves to be lived consciously, not just endured. That pause, that breath, that gentle awareness might just be the beginning of everything you've been searching for. The exhaustion that sleep cannot heal is real, valid, and transformative when properly understood. It's not a destination but a waypoint, a place where the soul stops to ask what truly matters. In that stopping, in that questioning, In that profound honesty with yourself lies the seed of everything that comes next. Your weariness is not your weakness, it's your wisdom calling you home to yourself.